Imagine someone were to give you a magical instrument. What would you want this magical instrument to be? And more importantly, what would you wish this magical instrument to do for you? Hello everyone, I'm Kathleen Pelly. Welcome to Journey with Story. Today's episode is a story from Spain about a boy who receives a magical flute. Let's wait and hear exactly what this flute does for the boy. Before we begin, a big thanks to all of our listeners who have been writing a review of our podcast. If you haven't already done so, please take a moment to write one now, wherever you listen to our podcasts. Let's take a journey with the Silver Flute. Manuel lived in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. He spent his days happily watching over his family's flock of sheep in the mountain meadows with his dog Toro at his side. However, Manuel's life at home wasn't so peaceful, for his stepmother was very bad-tempered. If Manuel lost a sheep, she would be angry with him for days. One day, while Manuel was on the high meadows, a snowstorm blew up. A blizzard of snowflakes swirled so thick and fast that it was impossible to round up the sheep, and the whole flock scattered across the mountainside. Manuel and Toro sheltered in a cave. As soon as the storm passed, they searched for the flock, but all they could find were two sheep huddled together beside a rock. Manuel buried his face in his hands. "Oh, how can I go home with such terrible news?" he thought miserably. Suddenly, the sun broke through the clouds. Something made Toro growl. Manuel looked up and opened his eyes. Before him was a tall, mysterious woman in a black shawl. She stood calmly gazing at him with bright eyes. "I see you are in trouble," she said. "Yes," replied Manuel. "I've lost all my sheep except these two." The woman produced a small silver flute from her pocket. She looked at it thoughtfully for a moment and then handed it to Manuel. He stared at the beautiful instrument, which was decorated with tiny pomegranates, the fruits of that land. But when he looked up to thank the woman, she had vanished as mysteriously as she had appeared. Manuel put the silver flute to his lips and was surprised to find he could play a tune. The sweet song had a gentle rhythm, and it seemed to come from the flute itself, flowing as easily as the wind blows over the snow-covered peaks of the mountains. When the two sheep heard Manuel play, they shook the snow off their backs, stood up on their hind legs, and began to dance a jig. Manuel was delighted. He tapped his feet and kept on playing. Up jumped Toro, who joined in, wagging his tail and swaying from side to side. Moments later, all the other sheep came dancing along on their hind legs, bleating loudly to the music. Manuel stopped playing and roared with laughter at the sight. As soon as the music was over, the sheep dropped onto their 4 feet and nosed around in the snow for grass to eat. And Toro stopped dancing and sat at his master's side. From that day, Manuel always took his silver flute up into the mountains to play. However, dancing day after day made the sheep grow exceedingly thin. When Manuel's stepmother noticed this, she scolded him fiercely, but Manuel paid no attention to her. "Now I have my flute. I shall leave here and go out into the world to seek my fortune," he told Toro. Nothing made the stepmother more furious than being ignored. She opened her mouth to give Manuel the biggest scolding of his life, but before she could speak, he pulled the flute out of his pocket and began to play. Suddenly, this stepmother found herself starting to dance. Round and round the kitchen she spun, unable to stop. In desperation, she shouted for help, but nobody else was home. She had no choice but to follow Manuel as he led her onto the road and high up into the mountains. On and on the stepmother danced, whirling and spinning to the song of the silver flute, with Toro dancing behind. Where Manuel left her and where he went to, nobody ever knew. But if you hear a flute and find yourself dancing, you may guess he is somewhere nearby. Remember, if this story painted any images in your mind, do get busy drawing for us. We'd love to see your masterpieces. Send them to us at www.journeywithstory.com. Just go to the contact page and download it there, or you can share it on Instagram. And if you want some free coloring sheets for our episodes, why not join our Patreon community today? Just go to www.journeywithstory.com and click on the Patreon button. Cheerio then. Join me next time for Journey with Story. Music and post-production was by Colette Jonas.